Good evening, everyone. My name's Professor Matt DeGoosh. I'm the Interim Executive Dean of the Faculty of Engineering, Architecture and Information Technology. It is my pleasure to be hosting you this evening for the UQ Frank White Memorial Lecture. Before we start, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners and their custodianships of the lands on which we meet today, and I would like to pay my respects to their ancestors and their descendants as we walk together on the path to reconciliation. I would also like to extend a warm welcome to Professor Sue Harrison, our Deputy Vice-Chancellor of Research and Innovation, who we will hear from shortly. Emeritus Professor Don McKee and Dr. Bob Bryan, AM. Keynote speaker Michael Wright, Executive Chair and CEO of Thiess. UQ colleagues, students, alumni and our industry partners. Distinguished guests one and all. Before we begin our formal proceedings, a few basic housekeeping items. The bathrooms are located through the doors at the back of the room and on the other side of the foyer. And in the unlikely case of an emergency, please exit via your nearest exit point and follow instructions from the Customs House staff. We're gathered here tonight to celebrate the enduring legacy of Professor Frank T.M. White, a pioneering figure whose vision and leadership laid the foundations for mining and metallurgical engineering at UQ. This lecture was first established in 2023 to honour his lifetime of service and to continue the conversations he championed about innovation, integrity, and the key role of engineering in shaping a better future. This event was first conceived by Emeritus Professor Don McKee and Dr. Bob Bryan, AM, and we're honoured to have both of them with us again this evening. Rather fittingly, we welcome Dr. Franklin White, son of the late Professor Frank T.M. White, to deliver the inaugural address. Even as the Frank White Memorial Lecture's mission is rooted in the values of its namesake, it is much more than a tribute. It's intended as a signature UQ event that brings together disciplines from across the engineering sector to explore the grand challenges of our time and engage in important discussions about how leadership and innovation in engineering can help us navigate them. I have no doubt that tonight's keynote will spark fresh thinking and meaningful discussion. So before we begin the lecture, I would firstly like to introduce UQ's Deputy Vice-Chancellor of Research and Innovation, Professor Sue Harrison, to say a few words and introduce our keynote speaker. With over 30 years in senior academic roles at UQ and the University of Cape Town, South Africa, Professor Harrison has a strong commitment to strategy, research discovery, innovation and translation. From January 2024 until this past May, she served as Executive Dean of the Faculty of Engineering, Architecture and Information Technology at UQ. In her current role, Professor Harrison leads strategies to enhance the university's research and research training frameworks and is focused on expanding strategic partnerships with industry and government to deliver outcomes that benefit communities, the economy and the environment. So please welcome Professor Harrison.
Thank you, Matt. And I too would like to acknowledge the traditional owners and their custodianship of the lands on which we meet today. And I'd like to pay my respects to their ancestors and descendants as we walk together on the path of reconciliation. And I'd also like to acknowledge Mr. Michael Wright, Executive Chair and Chief Executive Officer of Thiess Group, and our guest lecturer this evening, Don McKee and Bob Bryan, AO, for their role in setting up this lecture. Friends, donors of UQ, and UQ colleagues and distinguished guests. So it's really my great pleasure to welcome you all to Brisbane's Customs House for the 2025 Frank White Memorial Lecture. As Matt said, the annual lecture was established in 2023 to honour the remarkable legacy of Professor Frank T.M. White, a pioneering figure whose career transformed teaching and practice of mining and metallurgy at the University of Queensland. Frank arrived at UQ in 1950 as the university's first professor of mining and metallurgy. And in that role, he not only built the department from ground up, but he embedded values that were decades ahead of their time. Values of diversity, sustainability, and a recognition that engineering should serve society as well as industry. His early professional life had taken him from the goldfields of Western Australia to the Department of Mines in Fiji, to post-war Malaya, where he helped rehabilitate the tin industry and contributed to the nation's mining laws. These experiences shaped a global outlook that influenced everything that he did here at UQ. Frank was an advocate for inclusion long before it was commonplace. He championed international education, helping to establish International House at St. Lucia, and he actively supported women in a male-dominated field, including the first female academic in his faculty and encouraging the first woman, Sandra Collins, to graduate with mining engineering at UQ. He also had a visionary approach to teaching and research. Where others saw an abandoned silver mine in Indrapuli, Frank saw a world-class experimental laboratory. That mine became the Julius Krichnit Mineral Research Center, today an education research facility recognized globally for its innovation and impact. So it's no exaggeration to say that much of UQ's standing in the field, and we currently ranked 6th in the world for mining and for mineral and mining engineering, has been built on the foundations of Frank Wright, those foundations he laid more than 70 years ago. The values that Frank stood for during his career here, education, leadership, and transformational thinking, are just as vital today. They are at the heart of UQ's own strategy to create change for a better world through excellence in teaching, research, and engagement. This means driving innovation is not only within disciplines, but across them, whether through new technology, smarter partnerships, or rethinking the way we prepare students and industry for the future. And innovation isn't an abstract concept at UQ. It's part of the way we work with industry and our communities to turn knowledge into impact. And in mining and resources, innovation has never been an option. It's essential, especially today, to meet the complex challenges of safety, environmental stewardship, and sustainable growth the world demands. So a perfect example of this is our new partnership with Thiess, which brings together one of the world's leading mining services providers and a world-class university to deliver specialized postgraduate training in the resources sector. This collaboration has produced 3 new qualifications, 2 graduate certificates and a graduate diploma in resource development, designed for engineers seeking to transition into mining or to upskill within the industry. Developed jointly by UQ School of Mechanical and Mining Engineering and the Thiess Institute, these programs blend academic rigor with real-world, on-the-job learning. As the head of UQ School of Mechanical and Mining Engineering, Professor Ross Macquarie has said, this is more than a set of courses. It's about bridging the gap between knowledge and practice and ensuring that education and innovation keep pace with the rapidly changing world. And that's exactly the kind of forward thinking that Frank Wright championed. And that brings me to our keynote speaker this evening, Mr. Michael Wright. Michael is Executive Chair and Chief Executive Officer of the Thiess Group, and he has more than 30 years of experience in the mining industry. He has held leadership roles in operations spanning Australia, Asia, Africa, and the Americas, and is recognized for his ability to steer organizations through times of transformation and growth. Michael's topic tonight, Pioneering Spirit for a Brighter Tomorrow, Innovation and Leadership in Navigating Accelerating Change, could not be more timely. We're all living in an era defined by rapid technological change, shifting markets, and an urgent need for sustainable practices. Our drive towards a low-carbon future to enable sustainable development is deeply dependent on metals and mining. And in mining, as in so many sectors, it takes vision, agility, and a pioneering mindset to turn these challenges into opportunities. And this is the area where UQ and Thiess share a common purpose to lead through innovation and to nurture the next generation of leaders. And so it is with great pleasure that I welcome Michael Wright to deliver the 2025 Frank Wright Memorial Lecture. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Harrison, for that warm introduction. And thanks everyone for attending tonight on this Brisbane evening. As you can see there, pioneering spirit for a brighter tomorrow has been with Thiess for some time now. Innovation and leadership being key to the future of our business and the mining industry more broadly, and that being the topic of today. So I'd like to start firstly by acknowledging the Yugara and Turrbal people, the traditional owners of the land on which we're gathered today, pay my respects to their elders past and present, and recognise the deep and enduring connection that they have with this land. I guess I was humbled by the invitation from UQ and the Faculty of Engineering, Architecture and Information Technology, quite a mouthful, to explore engineering innovation and leadership with you tonight in the spirit of Professor Frank T.M. Wright. Professor Wright, as you heard, was a mining and engineering visionary with an appreciation for globalisation and a true love of humanity and equality. A progressive voice in support of diversity and developing nations, a man ahead of his time in post-war Australia. He established mining and metallurgy at UQ in 1950, around the time that the Thiess brothers, the 5 Thiess brothers, first started mining operations in Queensland and New South Wales. And whilst there is no record, there is a likelihood that Frank White crossed paths with the Thiess brothers, potentially when Kenneth A. Thiess Prize for Engineering at UQ was established in 1963 by Bert Thiess in honour of his son Kenneth, a UQ graduate who tragically died in an incident at the Snowy Hydro scheme. I'd like to think that Professor White and the Thiess brothers would have all gotten along really well. They were pioneers and contributors in shaping mining in Australia and beyond. They were relentless innovators and brought ideas from across borders to raise the mining profession in a growing nation in the years after World War II. So, it's an honour to be standing here at this event honouring Professor White on behalf of the university and Thiess, a global company founded in Toowoomba by 5 innovative brothers some 91 years ago. I've had the privilege of being a leader in this great company for more than 25 years and in the industry for 30. With Caterpillar and tunnelling prior to Thiess, and joining as a project manager on the rehabilitation project of the former nuclear test site at Maralinga, through to senior and executive leadership roles through some of the most challenging and celebrated times in Thiess's history. And wonderfully, my wife, Roanne, and family are here. We've raised our 4 children while I've been with Thiess, with 1 UQ graduate, 2 UQ wannabe graduates, and the youngest absconding to the University of Sydney. So I've got a great affiliation with the University of Queensland, and whilst I'm not an alumni, I have served previously on the board of the Sustainable Minerals Institute, and most recently, very recently, have accepted an invitation to join the newly formed Strategic Advisory Board of the Faculty of Engineering, Architecture and Information Technology. As well as have a strong affiliation with your Chancellor, Peter Varghese, and the university through our joint efforts over 20 years in the promotion of global river restoration through the International River Foundation, which I chair, and Peter and the university passionately support. I'm also a big fan of UQ rugby, with 3 of my 4 kids having played for UQ or the UQ Junior Bull Sharks, so I'm as close to an alumni as I can be. Thiess, like the mining industry and society more broadly, has experienced significant change over the past 9 decades from our origins during the Great Depression, providing energy coal in New South Wales at the back end of World War II, to fostering Japanese relationships long before others, opening up the coalfields of the Bowen Basin as the lead in the Thiess Peabody-Mitsui partnership, which helped set up the economic prosperity of this great state that we live in. In construction, there were many projects across Australia with more than 80 dams built, more than 1 for every year at the time. The early roads in Queensland's outback, the railways, and what I call our donation to the people of Brisbane through our significant financial losses on that magnificent airport link tunnel that many of us drive through. Certainly a not-for-profit project for us. We ran the Brisbane City Council's waste facilities for more than a decade. We provided water, gas, electrical utilities up and down the East Coast and in Western Australia. And we built almost half of NBN's rollout nationally. Like Professor Frank White's forays into Southeast Asia, as a community-minded mining pioneer, Thiess brought international mining practices to Indonesia in 1988, where we continue to this day as the only international mining provider in the country, having trained more than 1,500 apprentices to Queensland's accreditations. We've since expanded into Mongolia in 2007 in both open cut and underground mining there, and uplifted the skills and living standards of these great people. We've run the only international mine in Cambodia, mobilised through COVID, training a workforce in first world mining practices. And like Professor White, today we're working with the Cambodian government and our client to set up the right regulatory frameworks to ensure mining in this growing country is done with the right focus on the people, community, environment, sustainability, as well as ensuring that the state gets the right balance of taxation and royalty revenues to ensure the country can reinvest in the future and the companies involved can do the same, thus creating a financially sustainable and collaborative ecosystem. We in Queensland should take note. So at Thiess, we've been through a lot of change, including changes to our shareholding from a privately owned family company to being listed on the stock exchange, taken over, broken up, and become part of Australia's largest and most successful contracting group, Leighton Holdings. We then got taken over by the Spaniards from ACS in 2014, which saw the Leighton name replaced forever with CIMIC and CPB contractors, and with Thiess not only surviving but evolving with a clear focus on global mining services. Thiess flourished under the Thiess brothers thanks to their pioneering spirit and agility, and I'm pleased to say that their spirit lives on today through our global operations in Australia, Indonesia, Mongolia, Cambodia, India, Canada, US and Chile. We've at times prospered and at times barely survived across 9 decades, through some turbulent times when many of our peers have come and gone. However, Thiess people came through. We are positioning Thiess to be at the forefront of sustainable mining, to be a global change agent for the mining industry, with both opportunities and challenges of implementing technology and embracing decarbonisation into our industry, winning back the hearts and minds of communities and society more broadly. Through the leadership of mining innovators and pioneers like Professor White and like the Thiess brothers and many others, Australia is positioned to be a global superpower of mining and minerals expertise into the future. And tonight I'll be sharing with you some of the insights into Thiess's pioneering spirit in innovation and leadership, and reflect more on what our industry needs to prosper into the future. I'll let you look at that for a minute while I get myself some water. So we live in a constant state of flux, and the change of pace continues to accelerate, which brings with it significant opportunity and significant concern for many of us. I started my career in the 1980s when we had apricot computers, as they were called, at the University of Sydney. I think they were a cheap version of what was then an Apple, and a green screen linked to the USA for mail inquiries when I joined Caterpillar. We had a typing pool for our letters and thermal fax machines for communicating. In the 20th century, technology advanced incrementally. As you can see from the graph, the mobile phone was invented in the 70s, took 190 months, almost 16 years, to reach 100 million users. That's it there. The internet came online, the one above it, in 1983, and took 7 years to hit 100 million users. In the 21st century, WhatsApp launched in 2009 and took 3 years. ChatGPT got 100 million users in just 2 months. So today, our society more than ever embraces accessible and affordable technology to better our lives. Yet many businesses and industries are very slow to adopt it. With exponential growth and increased connectivity across the world, technological process is becoming more rapid, allowing us to do much more in less time. The pace is also rippling through the shifting global trends. The global energy transition and net zero emissions is certainly reshaping infrastructure and our markets. Generative AI, with its potential to amplify human judgment and push productivities, and the risk involved with misinformation and disinformation, over and under regulation, all confronts us today. With the increase in middle income earners in countries like China, India, Indonesia, and most of Southeast Asia, we see billions entering the middle class, pushing global demands for goods and services whilst challenging the sustainability of the very planet we live on. Ageing populations in many developed nations, including our own, are changing how we work and the shape of our workforce and our economy. And supply chains changing substantially. They're trading efficiency for resilience now, which has been a relatively recent shift, to provide a buffer or protection against supply chain disruption. So the one constant that remains is change, and we must embrace it. The challenge I've found over my years is that engineers like structure, analytics and certainty. Some struggle to live and work with ambiguity, struggle operating in the grey. But this is an environment today that we've got to get comfortable with. We must have the courage to change as individuals, as companies, as an industry, and as a nation for our collective future prosperity, as it depends on this. One thing that's not picking up speed, unlike technology, is productivity. This is a concern for many nations, as you can see from the graphs here, because productivity is the engine of global living standards. In fact, it's the key to lifting global living standards. Unfortunately, as you can see for the 6 nations on this chart, with dates from left to right, you can see our productivity is dropping. They've certainly downshifted, flat at best, negative in some. This means that wages, competitiveness and fiscal returns are going to be squeezed. And this is where innovation is crucial. It is the solution to slowing our flat productivity growth. Innovation enables economies to create more value per hour when labour and capital are tapped out. Innovation is a nation's most durable lever. Deploy new technology, redesign processes and invest in skills and data. So let's take a closer look at Australia's productivity challenges. These are very topical. At the moment, as many of you know, with our best and brightest gathering in Canberra at the moment for the next 3 days to work out how we deal with this as a nation. A collaboration of the willing, or perhaps the unwilling, as the case may be. Our labour productivity is roughly back at 2016 levels and sits near 0.7% per annum. So our national growth will stay muted until we change the game. And unfortunately, productivity presently in Australia is somewhat of a political game without bipartisan support or agreement. So he is hoping that many more of our industry and political leaders will engage and help our industry and nation through these critical and defining times. The mining sector matters disproportionately, as you can see in the top line on the right there, because its gross value add per hour is an order of magnitude some 10 times above our economy-wide average. Why, you ask? Mining's a capital-intensive business, as each worker leverages millions in plant, automation, infrastructure and systems. Mining sells globally priced high-value outputs to the world that embed resource rents and add value from scale economies. Those results do swing, obviously, with ore quality and pricing. As I've said, innovation is a lever for us to raise productivity growth, smarter capital and automation, better processes and skills, and data-driven decisions will shift growth from more hours to more value per hour, and sustain productivity, sustain incomes and our competitiveness on the world stage. So given what we've seen so far, the mining industry globally is looking at a very intense decade ahead. We're going to be judged primarily on two objectives. Do we, as an industry, deliver the metals and minerals needed for energy transition and to meet the world's surging demand for energy? And importantly, in line with Frank White's vision, do we deliver them better, more sustainably, more efficiently than we have in the past? This means scaling responsibly with ever-depleting mineral grades while cutting emissions, bringing more value onshore and lifting productivity with technology and an uplift in our skills. We need to start projects faster, run safer and make supply chains transparent to earn the trust of the community. And we have to embrace all of our society and treat the resources being mined and processed as our collective own, for it is humanity that owns our global resources. If we can do this, our sector won't just keep up with the transition, we'll actually set the pace. So I hope now I've set the scene sufficiently. You'll understand why innovation certainly matters, especially amidst the turbulence of our global connected economies and accelerating pace of technology. So now let's take a closer look at innovation and reflect what it does mean. We're all familiar with transformative innovation, innovations like the smartphone, electric vehicles, Uber, Netflix, that disrupted the status quo and changed economies and the way society works. But let's not forget the incremental innovation that happens every single day. Doing new things, experimenting and coming up with a new or improved product or process or way of doing things. That's innovation as well. Incremental innovation can also flow on to have far-reaching impacts. Every day, our people and companies are innovating, making incremental and continuous improvements. Our companies, and indeed our nations, need to create an environment where innovation is nurtured and embraced, that delivers lasting value and impact to our society. And what is the role of leaders in fostering this innovation? Future-facing environment, innovative future-facing environment. If I gave you a team of bright young engineers with the goal of fostering innovation, what would you do? And what are the principles and what are the first steps you take with these young folk? These are questions I've spent my whole career contemplating. I'd admit, certainly I don't still have all the answers, but I do have some observations. Leaders need to practice a kind of engineering that isn't in your textbooks, not civil, not mechanical, not electrical, not mining, not metallurgy. We need to engineer or re-engineer how we think, how we embrace change and innovation. We need the courage to change. We need to be able to operate in the grey zone and not fear failure. As leaders, our task is to nurture that natural curiosity, to spark passion that drives purpose. That's the first step towards embedding a culture of innovation. And this is where empowerment comes in. To me, empowerment means the decentralisation of decision-making. It means recognising every team member has a part to play in making important decisions in the business. It means creating diverse teams, operating in safe environments with a deliberate mix of supervision and freedom that empowers your teams to grow. And it's difficult to achieve. I believe every team will be as great as the business gives it room to be. And that's why leaders need to empower their people to be curious, to experiment, to fail, and to learn. Thiess has always embraced curiosity and the challenge of trying new things. In the 1950s, our founder, Sir Les Thiess, bought 13 Toyota Land Cruisers from Japan for our Snowy Hydro project. He was so impressed by them that he brought Toyota to the Australian market for the first time. This was against the advice of the board. What does a construction contractor at the time know about selling cars? Well, the Thiess brothers knew a lot about machines and they could see the potential of the Land Cruiser. By 1960, Thiess Toyota sales had risen to $200 million with 22 dealerships across the country. This relationship lasted into 1980s when Toyota bought out Thiess. I guess I reflect on how different Thiess would be today if we hadn't made that decision. Probably wouldn't be standing here today. The spirit of exploration, of willingness to try new things lives on in our industry today. Look at the take-up of autonomous technology in mining vehicles. Australia is truly ahead of the game, with mining companies such as BHP, Rio and Fortescue leading the way in the iron ore sector. We at Thiess started our autonomy journey in 2012 at Fortescue's Solomon mine in the Pilbara, where we installed autonomous technology on conventional mining trucks for the first time and continued as part of this operation for many years. Today, we run our own fleets, as pictured here, our own fleets of autonomous trucks, autonomous drills and semi-autonomous dozers across numerous sites in our business, and we are the global benchmark in the operational implementation of these, recognised by Caterpillar. From our global head office over the river at South Bank, we've successfully operated our dozers in the Bowen Basin and our drills in the Hunter Valley, almost 1,000 kilometres away. We've had NASA come to visit us at our sites to see our autonomous operations in action, to get learnings for their Project Artemis, a program set up for them to base themselves on the moon as further exploration to Mars. And we've got teams of people at South Bank and on our sites globally tasked with developing practical solutions with autonomy and data analytics at the top of the list. For Thiess and the mining sector as a whole, autonomy is one of those incremental innovations that will ultimately transform the way we mine. For the past decade, the focus has been to harness the consistency and predictability of autonomous mining to increase productivity, decrease costs and improve safety. I guess as we draw closer to 2030, for many countries and companies, a midway target to net zero by 2050, there is a greater focus on leveraging autonomy to achieve sustainability benefits. With increasing efficiency, less downtime, less rework, autonomy already contributes to reduced carbon emissions. However, the industry is looking further into combining the electrification of mining fleet with autonomous mining technology, heading towards a net zero mine becoming a reality. Picture a fleet of battery, electric, haul trucks running autonomously between pit to stockpile, 24/7, stopping only to swap their batteries out when a charge is needed. And the batteries are charged through the mine's on-site solar, wind and storage. It's actually much closer than many think. With many successes and many failures, the industry continues to march on and evolve. In addition to the OEM technology, the original equipment manufacturing technology, predominantly through Komatsu and Komatsu, we've been working with various partners on agnostic autonomy. Most recently, a partnership out of China, which is pictured here, and I was on that site a couple of weeks ago, where we've embarked on trials at a gold mine in Western Australia. This technology is proven on a large scale in China with some 600 trucks running autonomously on a single mine site, albeit much smaller fleets and with different mining methods. But the future of mining is clearly just around the corner. Innovation doesn't always come from bolts of inspiration, it comes from steady progress, from observations, from listening to our people and having a culture to foster the future. Through empowering our people to be curious and explore what is possible, the solutions will start to reveal themselves. Then we just need the courage to turn these ideas into practical, lasting outcomes. Embracing ambiguity and uncertainty as engineers is easier said than done. And I have many, many, many engineers that work for me. It's a step of turning ideas into actions that many companies balk at. And that's what really does kill innovation, the fear of the unknown and the fear of failure and not taking that step. Natural curiosity is a trait many engineers share. So is wanting to have all the facts so we can make rational decisions and solve the problem. But perfection certainly can be the enemy of progress. Projects will stall while we find facts and investigate every last option so we can make the most informed decisions we can make, and then innovation stalls. So we need to get comfortable with the unknown, get comfortable with the fact that change is constant. It's about speeding up, and so we need to prioritise progress over perfection, calculate the risks, build in the right mitigations, give yourself room to grow and evolve. And engineering has evolved more in the last 20 years than at any other time in human history. In mining, our engineers have outstanding software skills and create 3D animations and resource models of what a mine looks like 20 years from now, with little more than some boreholes and some smarts and a few weeks of sitting behind a desk. It's quite incredible what technology brings to mining and planning and efficiency. Tomorrow it will change again, and having the imagination and the conceptualisation to work with AI will become the next super skill set. There's a lot of fear out in the community, but business is embracing AI for the productivity and efficiency gains that this country and industry so desperately needs. I believe that our engineering skill set will evolve yet again. I believe mastering the benefits of large language models will take imagination, open-mindedness and curiosity, and will deliver a step change in productivity for our industry. Just as calculators freed us up from long division, AI means that we will free up time to move up the level of conceptualisation. We need to embrace technology and change as it will differentiate our industry and our nation. The other killer of innovation is the fear of failure. It's why so many companies fail to embrace true innovation. And who can blame them, with most Western democracies struggling with high levels of debt, large deficits? Australian business insolvencies are all-time high, driven by the knock-on effects from COVID. The global economy used to be comparatively predictable. We had economies that went up and down with cyclical upturns and downturns, but the increasing rate of globalisation and the rise of geopolitical instability, accelerating speed of technology has seen many more variables and therefore unpredictability impacting local and global economies. In early 2000s, Australia enjoyed the China boom, when China underwent massive growth and expansion and were hungry for our resources. In 2008, the GFC hit and we stalled. More business failures, interest rates hiked, knock-on effect to commodity prices, collapsing in the mid-2010s, as many of you remember. Some tough times in mining then. And then from 2016 right up until COVID, it boomed again. Chinese government threw more stimulus at the economy. They wanted our resources. We lifted as a nation again. And then we collapsed when COVID hit. And I guess now, like many Western democracies, we're suffering from the post-COVID effects of significant cost escalation and uncertainty. And productivity and innovation must be the key to our future. I thought I'd stop and just walk you through what this looks like, a big sign that says Thiess, but it's actually spelt out with dumps from our autonomous truck here when we started our operation. The guys had a bit of a play around as we were learning about the technology, and they dumped out the words Thiess with autonomous vehicles, which is pretty cool, I think. Well, I just thought you might miss that if I didn't point it out. So Thiess, being a key player and employer in mining sectors across the world, we've experienced all of the impacts I just referred to. Ours is a business model based on productivity, where we make our money from our services, not from the commodities we mine and process. So we can't afford to be risk averse. Playing it safe is the riskiest thing a company like ours, or in fact our industry, can do. As General Shiseko so eloquently stated, if you dislike change, you're going to dislike irrelevance even more. It's a fantastic quote, and I think it's something, if there's nothing else you take away from tonight, I hope it's that. It's something we talk a lot about in our business all the time, about how we continue to position for the future, how do we position the industry for the future, be relevant for the industry and make the industry more sustainable and technology driven, so we can get an uptake in society with people coming back to us as an industry where people are attracted to. With Thiess, as a service provider in the global mining industry, we've got to constantly push the envelope for safe, incremental performance, or we cease to exist. It's our key to maintaining a competitive edge and driving excellence, and it's absolutely key to our industry and our nation to have clear strategies, to be able to embrace failure as a part of innovation, and to strive together for our future prosperity. And sometimes testing the limits means falling over. Got an example or two where things didn't quite go to plan. For 3 years here, we partnered with one of our clients and a technology firm, spent a fair bit of money on trials to convert mining haul trucks to run on dual fuel, diesel and gas, with the aim obviously reducing emissions. And the initial concept was to source the gas from the coal seams. We spent a lot of money on the capital investment in the equipment. So therefore you stop the methane being released, put it back into the engine of the truck, reduce the diesel burn, reduce the overall emissions, stop the methane going up, produces CO2, etc. So overall, really good plan. I guess in mining, 50% of our emissions, open cut anyway, come from the mining fleet. So if the idea had worked, it would have been somewhat transformational, albeit on a journey of transition. We invested significantly, achieved diesel substitution of 80% with no reduction in performance, but fundamentally the overwhelming capital cost of the project meant it didn't work, and we failed to tap into the coal seams at that particular mine. Key learnings from that, we've got many, and we are working with another client on another strategy, similar process, to try and do the same thing. So it's about failing and learning as a company. Another more recent one, that was the year before, last year, over a period of 3 years. This one, we collaborated again with Toyota, obviously a long-term partner of ours, to establish the first Toyota hydrogen power generator for mine site operations, which obviously a significant opportunity if it worked, and we could scale that up substantially. From a technology perspective, trial was an immense success. Unfortunately, again, to maximise decarbonisation benefits, green hydrogen has to be used. And I think we all know about the high cost of green hydrogen at the moment anyway, making this initiative somewhat uneconomic at this stage. So again, noble efforts. We learnt a lot as a business going through it, and we haven't given up. We continue to sort of challenge what we're doing and open new pathways up for decarbonisation and implementation of technology in our business and in the industry more broadly. So I guess at Thiess we try a lot of things and many things don't work, but we keep trying because doing nothing's not really an option when the world's changing at such rapid pace. As I look back through my career, it's been a lot of quiet, incremental, innovative projects that really have driven massive value in our business. One example, which the Thiess guys in the room will know about, in 2005 we built a database called Infomine. Doesn't sound particularly exciting, simple to use, very accurate. for the last 20 years with some modifications. It's been our optimisation powerhouse for the company for mining, underpinning our ability to get real-time data out to the paddock, understand our cost base in real time and really drive the efficiency of our mining operations for us and for the benefit of our clients. So this is a incremental, you could say, but nothing too flash, below the radar certainly, but it's delivered hundreds of millions of dollars in savings to our business over the last 2 decades. I guess it just shows what innovation can bring to a company and an industry. Just wanted to touch briefly on collaboration and creating a safe place for people to operate. As you know, innovation needs collaboration. Collaboration goes just beyond teamwork. It includes a deep care for people in your team and their ability to deliver on their goals. It is this deep care for helping them to develop, to experience success, because you help them, teach them a new skill or give them insights, regardless of whether they're a colleague or they're a boss. For many engineering organisations, including at Thiess, we're structured hierarchical, and so collaboration is somewhat difficult at times. So we need to consider how we have and embrace the different skills that we have in our team so we can drive collaboration and therefore innovation. And as a leader, the job is to create this psychologically safe workspace to connect, empower your teams to come up with a direction and pursue a common goal. This will fuel people's passion for the project and help them own the purpose of the team they belong to. To my mind, collaboration means less hierarchy, more deep care for the performance and success of your teammates. The psychologically safe environment that ultimately enables innovation is critical and underpins all of that. As I've learned over many years as a leader, vulnerability is an absolute strength. And I guess when you look at your people, they need to have courage to put themselves out there, to collaborate, to challenge decisions. And it's important that as leaders we embrace this and encourage the collaboration and therefore the innovation that follows from that. Australia as a nation benefits from its egalitarian society in this respect. Many cultures around the world have a strong sense of hierarchy, where the boss's directions are never questioned and people are unwilling to speak up. And it's a key consideration for us as a global business and for anyone that works in global businesses. Thiess has operated in Indonesia for more than 35 years, and I guess there we've invested in training, development, and most importantly, over the years, we've broken down cultural barriers to encourage our colleagues and teammates in Indonesia to speak up on any matter, to respectfully disagree and bring diversity of thought into discussions. And of course, it's not perfect and it takes time, but the rewards are significant. Our Indonesian operations are the benchmark of excellence in that country. It's not an exaggeration to say that we've helped lift mining standards significantly in Indonesia in the 2 generations we've been there. And I guess now what's happening is we're mobilising our bright, well-trained engineers and tradesmen across our global operations. We've recently taken 3 crews to Chile, and we're bringing more and more of the Indonesian tradesmen trained to Queensland standards by us to Australia as both temporary and permanent residents. Capability levels are so high that we've been able to set up our machine rebuild facility in Bataan Island in Indonesia, which extends the life of our service mining trucks for our Australian operations, and we're now offering that as a service to our clients as well in Australia. So a great example of what collaboration and creating a safe space to work brings through innovation through your people. Having strong teams at the core of your organisation enables you to take the concept of collaboration further beyond the boundaries of your organisation. It is critical to have partnerships. And I guess cross-company and intra-industry partnerships are hugely important in reducing risks that accompany innovation. As mentioned before, failure is certainly part and parcel of innovation processes, and you have to try many things and many things don't work out. But depending on the scale of innovation and the capital and the investment needed, it can be very costly when things don't go to plan, undermining shareholder confidence and certainly public confidence. Innovation projects require cross-disciplinary expertise that any single company is unlikely to hold. Therefore, by partnering with the best of the best in their field, you get the advantages of each other's expertise, increasing chances of success. Thiess has a long history of partnerships, many that go back decades. From Toyota, as you heard about before, to Caterpillar, to Liebherr, and to Mitsui, Mitsubishi and Marubeni and many more. We've got deep and trusted relationships with these parties. Thiess operates more than 50 projects across 8 countries in a range of environments, from the dense tropics in Indonesia to the Gobi Desert in Mongolia, to 30 degrees below in Ontario in Canada, and the wide open spaces of outback Australia. Each one's got its unique challenges, and in each area we need partners for us to perform strongly. We bring our in-field expertise and knowledge to these operating environments and support suppliers, manufacturers to help them deliver robust, efficient services to us in these jurisdictions. An example of an enduring partnership is with Caterpillar, where the Thiess relationship goes back to the 1930s, when the Thiess brothers first brought in the Caterpillar dozers for their earthworks projects. Today, we're one of their biggest global customers in mining, and we've worked with them on refining their autonomous systems in recent years, celebrating multiple firsts and world records in their autonomous mining operations and milestones. I guess our implementation technology, combined with their technology, has brought world-class mining practices to many of our sites in Australia. We continue to enhance and evolve their drill systems, their autonomous platforms and processes, even developing new software to provide autonomous drill controllers a 3-dimensional view of strata across a drill pattern during multiple drill autonomous operations. We've also had a very long relationship with Liebherr for 30 years. With our know-how on the ground, we've helped develop their flagship mining excavators, which are world-class, with innovations and improvements through Thiess significantly lifting performance and global mining productivities. I guess many more partnerships, but they wouldn't be possible without a strong culture of innovation embedded in an environment that empowers people and provides a psychologically safe space for them to collaborate with each other, and then beyond that. So I guess I've enjoyed sharing these reflections and learnings with you all. I hope that as we draw to a close, I've helped paint a solid picture of the positive impact a pioneering spirit can have on the future of our industry and our nation more broadly. I trust this can be grasped in a way that's useful, something we can all action to improve ourselves, improve the engineering profession and our industry and society more broadly. A pioneering spirit is about innovation every day. It's not just about big transformative innovations that make headlines, but it's about everyday efforts of teams working slowly, methodically towards improvements that can have far-reaching impacts. Innovation led from the ground up by empowered and curious people at all levels of our company has been the bedrock of Thiess's resilience for almost a century. The mining, innovation and love of people and humanity proffered by Professor Frank White was an example to us all. Within the company I lead and the industry more broadly, we have the opportunity to continue to drive towards these noble ambitions for a prosperous future for our industry and our country. The difference between Thiess making it to 100 years and beyond rests on continuing that pioneering spirit, rests on our innovation and our ongoing curiosity to challenge with rigorous follow-through. The world's changing at an exponential rate, which brings great opportunities, but we need to leverage innovation to harness these. To use innovation as a leader, we must remain curious, get comfortable with the unknown, and embrace change. For the students and grads in the room, it's an invitation to stay curious, be literate in technology, engineering, economics, and humanity. For our leaders, our job is clarity and cadence, setting direction, fund a capability, measure what matters, and keep room for course correction. empower your people to be curious, to try new things, and light the fire of their pioneering spirit with purpose. In the words of Professor Frank White, even if you don't rise in your profession, raise your profession. Thank you very much for your time. No, that's right. I'll grab water. Where do you want me? Yep, all good.
Thank you very much for delivering such an engaging presentation, Michael. Now we have some time for questions from the audience. So we've got a team with roving microphones. So please raise your hand, and if you would like to ask a question, we'll bring you a microphone.
A most enjoyable talk. Thank you for that. If I've understood what you've said correctly, you've tried, within the company, you try a lot of things new and a lot of innovations, but what seems to work are incremental changes that improve current practice rather than big breakthroughs. So I'd be interested to hear you just talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, thank you. I guess for our company, we're not a technology company as such, but we do pride ourselves on being an implementer of technology, of grabbing technology that exists either in our own industry or other industries and bringing it to our operations to drive improved productivities, improved safety, improved outcomes. So I guess we've got many talented engineers, people in our business that continue to look for the 1%ers to try and just take that incremental step. Again, we don't make our money out of a $300 or $400 per tonne coal price, or we make our money out of the operations that we perform for our clients. And yes, we get some cost escalation relief, but fundamentally our company's about driving productivity safely, and that's critical, and delivering for our clients, and so that giving them that confidence. So I guess for us in our business, we've got the biggest mining trucks in the world, as most mining companies do. I guess we pride ourselves on how we plan our work. The fact whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, we've got operations out to 5 years and beyond where we've got that whole mine plan baked in already, going out to that length of time. And I think it's that inherent discipline and continued focus on trying to be better every single day. I think healthy competition as well really does drive performance, and we're right now we're in the process of trying to establish, we've got a catch cry in our business, be the global benchmark. We're just trying to completely define what that means. In some of our sites, we're absolutely knocking it out of the park, and there is none better in the world than the performance we're getting. The autonomous mining, it's been quite challenging. We're implementing it on our own equipment, and I guess what we found out is that again, I think the major companies have put autonomy into their mining operations, but because they don't drive for those 1%ers, the delta between their cost base and the commodity price means they produce a profit. And so that's an acceptable position. For us, that's not acceptable, and it doesn't work our metrics don't work like that. So I guess what we've done is implementing technology and being that service provider globally that can help companies and OEMs and technology companies that implement technology to lift the industry is something we're really focused on.
Hey, Michael. Sometimes people talk about if you're going to fail fast. You're in the interesting position of being a service provider. So I expect sometimes you've got to bring the customer along on that journey. So could you share a couple of learnings about that? I'm also in service delivery, so I'm right there with you.
I've got one of my clients at least in the room. I've got to be a bit careful. with changing geological models and mine plans, which wasn't driven by us and was out of our control. And so trying to bring a client along the road where we planned the mine to look like this, and autonomy needs planning and consistency. And if it's not, it's disastrous. And so I think bringing that particular client along has taken and proving autonomy is the right solution where they wanted to turn it off has been I think a huge challenge for us, but a huge learning for both us and them. I think we've now demonstrated it is highly productive. You're getting 23 hours out of 24 on trucks, and it's not so much the labour arbitrage, but it's about sweating the assets. You're investing $10 million into every mining truck. You've got 40 of them running around on site. You want them running every single minute of every single day. To get, particularly for us, to get our return on capital, because it only comes through production. So we've got another client in another jurisdiction. Again, it probably comes down to, it's a lithium. It's a very different mining methodology, and it's all about, particularly spodumene. It's, I think, a lesson for them, and again for us, was how critical the cleanliness of the ore is for the processing. And so again, the contract model that was put in place and the way they were driving us just didn't work. We now shifted that over, it's taken some years, but shifted that discussion to sort of being a win-win for them and for us. And so I guess we do that. We've got people on our sites every day sort of trying to look for how to do things better, how to bring our clients along, how to make their operations more efficient, effective, how to make them more money, because ultimately if they're viable, that's important to us as well. Otherwise they don't need us. So
we have another question down there that we halfway down.
Thank you. I'm a student at UQ, and I'm joined here today by quite a few other undergraduate students, and I can't help but wonder, but in a constantly changing world with all this innovation happening, what kind of skills are you looking for in your undergraduate engineers?
Very good question. I've got some of my more senior engineers in the room who probably go through those selection criteria. I was humbled the other day to have a group of 50 first and second year grads at South Bank, and got the opportunity to talk to them for some time about their aspirations, where we were going as a company, the challenges we were facing. I think the technical skills can be taught. For me, I wasn't an A-grade student and probably enjoyed university life a bit too much, but you had you got through an engineering degree with a smattering of maths as well, and so you end up popping out the other end as someone who can think through, it's relatively intelligent, can think through problems. And I think what doesn't get taught is that sort of curiosity, the leadership, and so picking people for, their passion to want to make a difference in whatever field they're in, to make a difference to society more generally. We want people that turn up for work that are motivated and empowered and willing to make decisions and get on and help us grow our business and improve our clients' business, and as well as that, develop their own careers and journeys. And so I guess in graduates, looking for people who are, smart, but not necessarily the A-grade students. We're looking for more people with passion and curiosity and a willingness to try and learn. We've got a lot of smart people in the organisation that can train. The best way to get training is in the paddock, I think. And so, getting out on a mine site, getting trained by our people. I think unlike some of the bigger mining companies as well, we're a flatter organisation, and whilst we've got 14,000 people, the career opportunities have come thick and fast at a much greater rate. And I think we push our people to get across a much broader scope of works than perhaps some of the bigger mining companies where you get pigeonholed into a box and you can't escape. So I think I guess again, it's probably people who want to have a crack. So it's about attitude and wanting to travel with it. And so we are looking for custodians of Thiess to go overseas with us to Indonesia, to Mongolia. But again, career transition. The guy's done a great job up there and he's moving to run our Indonesian operations. So, we're actively seeking, and what a great opportunity for someone to go and, a lot of self-sufficiency in a very different jurisdiction. And so we're looking for people that really want to sort of be emboldened and travel with us and be successful and hang around for the journey.
One more question, thanks.
Hi, Michael. Thanks for that, mate. Great talk. If Thiess wanted to engage or partner with a research institution to help you along this pathway of innovation, let's just pick the University of Queensland as something totally random. Yeah?
Yes, which we are doing.
What are you looking for in that partner to help you along the journey? How would that organisation help you achieve your goals and push your business to succeed, and how could they help you achieve what you want to do?
Yeah, we've been on the Sustainable Minerals Institute journey since inception, and I sat on that board for some time and actually had 2 stints on it, and was always sort of challenging how we can work closer together. I mean, the university, so I sit on the Mineral Council board, chair the Health, Safety, Respectful Workplace Committee, chaired the response to the sexual harassment back in 2020 from the Human Rights Commission report for the industry's response. And so I guess we engage with certainly research and independent research institutes to try and help us do thinking in that space. We've got a fatality prevention project led chiefly by Thiess, but it's under the guise of the Mineral Council. We've done some really great work, but we ended up getting all the mining companies to give over their high potential incident data and their fatality data, obviously under lock and key, to an independent party that was trusted, and they did the analysis and gave us data we'd never had as an industry. And I guess the correlation between what we thought was happening and what is actually happening. And again, I guess that needed an independent third party to do that work for us. I think some observations, the grad cert programs mentioned in the introduction has been a really good collaborative response to us not having enough mining engineers, or the industry not having enough mining engineers. So taking someone with an engineering degree and making them into a mining engineer, although I think that's perhaps a retrograde step, being a civil engineer myself. But that's been a really positive collaboration between the 2 parties, jointly funded. We haven't had to fund all of it, but we have funded some of it, and we've made a long-term commitment to that path. And I think jointly funded, collaborative, long-term partnerships is what we're after. And whether they're research institutes or technology companies or OEM suppliers, clients, etc., Japanese trading houses, you name it. So, but I guess it's someone who's equally. We've done work before with universities, and the agility wasn't there that we needed. And that's critical. So,
Okay, I'm sorry I have to bring it to a close now, but there might be some time for some questions after as we socialise. So thank you again, Michael, for a very compelling keynote and very interesting observations in our question and answer session. And I'd also like to present you with a small gift. Appreciation for your time.
Oh, thank you. My wife will love that. Yep.
Yeah.
So,
thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So that concludes the lecture and our formal proceedings. It's been a pleasure to be your host this evening. Thank you all for contributing to such a vibrant and thoughtful discussion. And before we finish, I'd also like to extend my sincere thanks to Professor Sue Harrison, our Deputy Vice-Chancellor Research and Innovation, our keynote speaker Michael, and all our students, alumni, staff, industry partners and distinguished guests who've joined us here tonight. I'd also like to thank the advancement team in the faculty, that's Weston and Kyle Williams, thank you very much for putting on such a great event. I now encourage you all to stay, enjoy the hospitality and make the most of this opportunity to connect with the fellow members of our engineering community. Thank you.